From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay, I want to welcome you to Super Talk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime. The world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi, because as I say every single week, we are the capital of the outdoors in America. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi Radio Network on Super Talk TV at C Spire TV. But some of you might be watching on YouTube or Facebook, or listening on your favorite podcast. If that's the case, I always give you the date. It's April the 10th, 2023. I especially want to thank our sponsor, our title sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors, the Foundation. The formal name of the foundation is the Foundation for Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. They are a separate organization, a 501(c) that supports the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks in so many meaningful ways. They also focus on issues from time to time. I always cite the case of the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund that was signed into law now 2 legislative sessions ago that has created the opportunity to invest $10 million and then a lot of matching funds. So we'll probably be investing well over $20 million in outdoor enjoyment as a result of the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. Incidentally, I want to thank the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, and the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann, for helping move that number up this year. We had shot for $20 million, but as I mentioned, we did $10 million last year. But we're going to get $15 million this year. So once we get that invested, we're talking about turning that $15 million into more like more like $30 or $40 million. So we're moving in the right direction. Hopefully in future legislative sessions, we can talk more seriously about creating a dedicated funding source so we don't have to go back to the legislature every single every single year. By the way, I want you to know that the views on this show are mine, not those of the foundation. I'm an independent voice, and I'm here for outdoorsmen and women in this state, and I'm honored to be here, and I'm also honored to have the foundation as a title sponsor. Hey, listen, my weekend was I had a great weekend. I'm going to share that with you here in a second, except for as the day ended yesterday, I unfortunately had to call 911. My mother had gotten ill. My mother, just a resilient person. At 88 years old, back in December, she had her aortic valve replaced. And she's been doing really well. And she has pneumonia, unfortunately, and they admitted her. And so if you have the time, give my mama a little prayer. She's just a very special person. And unfortunately, our Easter weekend ended with that. But prior to that, we had all the family together. And I had a wonderful meal planned that all came out without a hitch. I want to tell you what we cooked. For an appetizer on our green egg, we had jalapeno cheese and then Hawaiian cheese and jalapeno cheese, deer sausage. We get our deer sausage from BB's in Greenwood, so our friend Charlotte and BB there really tend to us good. Just absolutely great sausage. And then I cooked some good old Cajun boudin from down inside Louisiana. Yeah, we brought it up from there. Have some Cajun in my wife's side of the family. And then I fried 3 huge batches of okra. My family loves fried okra, but we also cooked some fish. So let me tell you what fish we cooked. We fried some mahi-mahi and amberjack that we caught on our last offshore trip last fall. And then we cooked some bass and some mullet that we caught in Back Bay last week. The mullet, incidentally, we call it Biloxi bacon. There's nothing better than fried mullet, that is for sure. And then we cooked some wild turkey breasts that we had from a recent hunt, incidentally. We brined the turkey in a real special brine that my wife Ann makes. And then we marinated half of it and bacon wrapped it and cooked it on the green egg. And the other half we marinated in jalapeno juice and ranch dressing. And then we deep fat fried it. And by the way, I just want to tell you, man, after brining it and cooking it that way, it was really good. I mean, world class. I don't think it gets any better than that. So anyway, let's shift gears. Got a great show today. We're going to be visited by Ronnie Daniels, the charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi. We're going to check in about how fishing's going here along coastal Mississippi. And so now we're going to move to my new friend, Lieutenant Colonel Scottie Jones with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Look forward to chatting with him and hearing his story. Scottie, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Ricky. How are you?
I'm doing great. Listen, I loved reading about you. And what we'll do, we'll get into more details about what you do, but so that people can have an understanding. What's the sort of short story on what your current responsibilities are?
Well, I'm currently housed out of the Jackson headquarters here, and I'm do a lot of the administration statewide. So I've got a lot of hands and feet in it, a little bit of everything for the department.
Well, listen, you're not new to the outdoors or conservation. I mean, you grew up in Yazoo City, and you were even an Eagle Scout early in your life. But I guess the outdoors has always been sort of part of who you are, has it?
It's been a passion of mine. I was fortunate. My father introduced me to hunting and fishing, and continued that through scouting. And I was always told to get a career in something you enjoy, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. So I'm living it.
Well, Scott, I hear that all the time from so many people at the department, so many dedicated people who love the outdoors, who have really kind of committed themselves to making sure Mississippi stays the capital of the outdoors. But everyone's got the same story. If they didn't get introduced to the outdoors when they could literally just begin to walk, they certainly were introduced to it pretty quickly in their lives and fell in love and then found that career, whether you're a biologist or on the law enforcement side or wherever. Just so many opportunities inside the department, and just full of dedicated people, isn't it?
That's right. We have our staff here is outstanding. Everybody has a passion for the outdoors and enjoys what they do.
So you actually got a degree from Mississippi State in environmental science, which it's interesting you ended up on the enforcement side.
I did. Well, the degree actually, I went to Mississippi State, and I always wanted to be a conservation officer. So I pursued a degree in that. And at the time when I was at Mississippi State, it was only a wildlife forestry degree. And the first year I was there, they transitioned into a wildlife option. So I went into the wildlife law enforcement option and pursued that degree. But the degree actually is an environmental science degree.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, listen, when you were growing up, what were your favorite sort of outdoor activity? You mentioned hunting and fishing, but tell me a little bit about what you did growing up.
Oh, camping. I mean, we did a lot of camping, a lot of canoeing, anything that was recreation dealing with outdoors, Like I said, hunting and fishing was a big passion of mine. Obviously, I took up shooting sports later in my life, out there breaking clay. So anything that dealt with being outside, growing up, we were never allowed pretty much inside. You were put outside and you were trying to find something to do, building tree houses, whatever it was.
I get it. I did that too, man. I think back at some of the tree houses we built, for matter of fact, and it is a miracle. I mean, I think there was some true divine intervention taking place when I was young, that those tree houses that didn't have a safety inspector would hold me and my gang, man. It's amazing. Yeah, I bet you look back at it and think the same thing.
I do. I look back at it, and it's a miracle we didn't have more broken bones than what we did.
Isn't that the truth? I did fall out of a tree once, and that was my first broken arm, falling out of a tree. I was a monkey growing up. That's for sure. So listen, as you sort of got into your career at the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, I talk about the WMAs all the time. I mean, the fact that if you think about the park system for Mississippi and the wildlife management area system, our forefathers were just incredibly dedicated to making sure there's lots of public land for people to be able to enjoy, whether you hunt or fish, or whether you're like to canoe or just bird watch or just sit in a chair and take it all in. You had some great early experience in the WMA area, though, didn't you?
I did. I was fortunate, within my career. I actually started out in Coloma County as a conservation officer, and just so happened that I was able to move closer to home and be a part of a WMA program. Started out on Lake George WMA, developing that. That's a WMA in the southwest part of Yazoo County, and being instrumental on that WMA. And then as the mitigation projects came on, we developed Muscadine, which is the waterfowl area, Sky Lake, another area up in Humphreys County. So it was really a really good experience to give back. You know, you got to do a lot of stuff on the biology side of planting food plots and giving back to nature and so forth.
Well, it's incredible, actually, the amount of energy the department has put into the WMAs to make them world-class. I've had numerous conversations about what you guys have done in the duck arena. When we come back, though, we'll talk about some of that, actually, and we're going to talk about some interesting sporting clay stuff that's happening as well. We'll continue our conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Scottie Jones on the other side. See you after this.
Carry on, Mississippi.
Leading the conversation on Mississippi's outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my new friend, Lieutenant Colonel Scottie Jones, with us. And when we went to break, we're talking about some of his early work when he joined the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks after going to Mississippi State, which, you know, so many dedicated employees for the department went to Mississippi State. They went to other places as well, but I bet if you were to do a survey, those who have degrees, I bet the majority for sure went to Mississippi State. So Mississippi State's done a great job of sort of attending to the needs of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks in terms of trained personnel. But when we talked about Lake George and Muscadine Farms and Sky Lake WMAs that Scottie was involved in, and when we went to break, I mentioned that the state has really spent a lot of dedicated time and like working on duck habitat, and he mentioned food plots here just a second ago. But I mean, when you add it all up, it is special what the state's investing into the WMAs, isn't it?
It really is. There is a lot of public ground and a lot of good public ground to hunt and fish across our state. You know, I think it's one of the top in the Southeast where avid hunters and fishermen come pursue, you know, what we have available in the state.
Well, listen, when I refer to Mississippi as being the capital of the outdoors, I mean it. When you think about the Delta and the coast, both backwater and offshore fishing, the turkey hunting that takes place across this state, if you don't even hunt, you know, places like the largest undammed waterway in the United States in the Pascagoula River, and on, the list just goes on and on. But you actually had responsibility for Delta WMAs, which, you know, I think about from a hunting point of view, I think about the Delta sort of being the capital of hunting in Mississippi. And if that's true, and we're also the capital of the outdoors, then the Delta is probably one of the most precious, most incredible places in the entire United States. And you had responsibility there. But you saw it, man, day in and day out. It's a special place, isn't it, buddy?
It really is. And a lot of those Delta WMAs, you know, as far as the waterfowl, is phenomenal. I tell folks all the time, you can step foot on a lot of our Delta WMAs and you got an opportunity to kill a Boone and Crockett deer. So they're really special.
Well, look, we spent some money in the past, well, many years, but more recently in developing what are really first-class shooting facilities across this state. But give people an idea who haven't really paid close attention to what you guys have been up to.
So really, shooting ranges, facilities are special to me. You know, that's where I got a lot of my career into, developing those shooting ranges. We have 3 across the state, one up north around Sardis, it's a MacGyver shooting facility, one centrally located is Turcotte shooting facility, and one down in Purchaston, which is the McHenry shooting facility. And, you know, we realized about 10 years ago, we needed to do more with outdoor. You know, we had the hunt and fishing groups, but there was a non-target group that we wanted to get more involved in the shooting sports. And hopefully, you know, getting that group involved in shooting sports would play out, and maybe they buy a hunt and fishing license to participate in that as well.
McHenry has been a very successful range, hasn't it?
It has. In addition to that, just recently we added a sporting clay course to that range. You know, within our shooting range program, we started a Mississippi Scholastic shooting program, which got kids involved. We have over, I think, 1,200 kids involved in that program, 68 schools. And these facilities give opportunity for those kids to participate in scholarships.
I mean, you know, we think about the sporting clays and getting kids involved and learning to respect the firearm and so on. Man, that program has been unbelievably successful, hasn't it?
It really has. It's grown in the last 5 to 6 years. You know, we started out small, just putting it out there and seeing if there was interest in it. And it went from 10 schools, like I said, to 68 schools and 1,200 kids in within 6 years. So
that's special, man.
It is. It is. And so we're excited and proud of it.
So for people who have not been to the McHenry shooting range, I really encourage you to go, incidentally. But if they were to go there, what are they going to see when they get there?
So McHenry has offered is a 200-yard rifle range, a 100-yard rifle range, a pistol range. We have 3 skeet ranges, 1 overlap with trap on it, a 13-station sporting clay course, and my favorite is what we call the duck flush, which is essentially sporting clays in one spot where you're shooting over a pond of water, and you get to see every target thrown. So to me, it's like being out there in a duck blind hunting, you know. Yeah,
that is super cool. Hey, listen, the tornadoes in the lower delta there were just devastating. The Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks has certainly had a role in the response. Can you give me kind of a sense for that?
Yeah, obviously our prayers go out to the families and communities affected by that storm. It's definitely something we don't look forward to, but we prepare and train for it, and we respond to it. You know, our function with the Department of Wildlife within the Law Enforcement Bureau is search and rescue. We serve as that on the MEMA ESF 9 desk. So as soon as these storms go through, we're responding to them. That night we had over 70 officers respond within minutes after the storms went through. And, obviously we're looking for survivors. Anyone that's injured, we're getting them to safety and getting them the medical treatment they need. And we continue that role until everyone's accounted for. Like I said, it seems like, especially 4 months out of the year, we're geared up and ready to go. March and April, obviously, are tornado months for us. And then August, September, we're looking at hurricanes. So, it seems like Mississippi has a bullseye for natural disasters on it.
It is. I tell you that I've talked about it many times on my show here on the coast. The name of the show is Coast View, and I think that when you think about floods in the Delta and tornadoes and the worst natural disaster in American history and Hurricane Katrina, it's made us resilient, man. I mean, when a tough situation like that happens, people come out to help their neighbor. It doesn't matter what your politics are, what color your skin is. People come together, and that's when the true, real Mississippi spirit emerges. You've seen that time and time again, haven't you?
I have, Ricky, and it's just like you said. I was involved with Katrina early in my career, and ever since Katrina, working these natural disasters, it's just everyone pulls together. It's secondhand to everyone. They know what to do, know where to go, know how to get things accomplished, and how to get people to safety and take care of business. So it's really impressive how it comes together.
Hey, listen, I'm curious in the short time we have left, and when you wake up every morning, what's the thing you look most forward to in your work?
Waking up every morning, going, as a conservation officer, you have the freedom pretty much to work your schedule. You lace up your boots every morning and you say, well, I'm going to go visit this deer hunting group, or I'm going to go here and hook up a boat and get on the water. It's being outdoors. Like I said, it's a passion of mine and really enjoy it.
Well, that's cool. You got to tell me about your family real quick.
Well, I'm married to my wife, Stacy, for 26 years, and I got a son and a daughter. Both sons graduating this year. He's a senior at Benton Academy, and I got a daughter that's in nursing school. So very excited for all of them, and got to spend time this weekend with family and friends. So looking forward to spending a lot more days with them and outdoors.
Sounds like you do a little bit of, in administration. Sounds like you spend a little bit more time in the office than you would like to.
I do, but fortunately we have executive lets me get out and visit some of the areas in the Delta and spend some time with our officers in the field. So I do get to get out a little bit.
So when you look back on this year, I'm sure, like every year, since the pandemic, a lot more people going into the outdoors. Your officers were busy, weren't they?
They were. We've seen an uptick since COVID with people in the outdoors, which is a good thing for us. And each year is a little bit different, but this year seemed a little mild. We enjoy as officers spending time with the public out there in the hunting and fishing world.
I look back on this year. I'm 65 years old. I look back on this year, and I can honestly tell you that I had two of the best deer hunts I've ever been on, and I had the single funnest duck hunt I've ever been on this past year. And when you spend as much time in the outdoors as I do, fishing and hunting, it's great to be able to say that. I'm not looking back 15, 20 years ago thinking about that, but it's just this season was one of the funnest, best seasons I've ever experienced. I hope it was that for you as we're coming to a close on this conversation today.
It is. It definitely is. I look forward to spending time with my family and enjoy it when they get to go out in the outdoors and hunt and fish with me, and we get to spend that together and make memories together.
Yeah, that is so true, man. It's all about the memories and time with family. Listen, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, Scottie Jones. He's Lieutenant Colonel for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And when we come back, we're going to visit with my friend Ronnie Daniels. He's a charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi. We're going to get a report on how things are going in coastal Mississippi. We'll see you after this break.
I'll carry on, Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friend Ronnie Daniels now. He's a charter boat captain with the Fisherman Guide Service. We'll remind you what that is here in just a second. But, first of all, good morning, Ronnie. How you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. A little cooler weather out there. We're gonna hit the water this afternoon after it warms up a little bit and see what we can find.
That's cool. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But I had Lieutenant Colonel Scottie Jones on just a few minutes ago. You got to see him as we went through the transition from him to you. But, man, we are so lucky. I can't help but accentuate this point to have so many dedicated people who work in the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. I mean, they've literally dedicated their lives to helping us make sure that we remain the capital of the outdoors in America. But we're lucky, though, aren't we, man?
We are. We a good friend of mine and I, we always kind of laugh about it and say, we get to live where everybody else wants to vacation. There's so much to offer here.
It really is. Hey, listen, we're watching. You mentioned a little cold, our cool blast. It made for a beautiful Easter, incidentally. Just a wonderful Easter from a weather point of view. But what happened is this front goes out into the Gulf, and then within the last couple of days, most of the forecasters have said what it's going to leave behind is some energy that's going to work its way down to the surface, a low pressure. It will be a cold core system as opposed to a warm core. If it were summertime, that warm core working its way to the surface would probably become a tropical storm or something like that. It's going to work its way back up north to maybe southeast or central Louisiana. But what that means is that there's going to be a strong southeast wind, most likely. This is all sort of still unfolding in the models. Coming into the bays and the Mississippi Sound, which it might as well be a tropical system because it could impact you guys the same way as a tropical system would impact you. How do you guys plan for something like that?
You don't, Ricky. You book every day that you can, and then you hope you can shuffle people around if the weather doesn't let us go. We do vacation rentals as well, and last week one of our guests that was coming in was wanting to reschedule for a few weeks later because they said the weather forecast didn't look great and they were looking for a good weekend. And I told them, I said, y'all, it's so uncertain this time of the year. We can reschedule you, but it may be worse. You may get a good weekend this weekend. And look at what we had Saturday afternoon. It was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, that I was mentioning to you when we were out the air before we started the show that this tends to be a slightly slow time of the year, just as things start to transition. So you have to, when you go fishing, and we'll talk more about that here in just a second. But when you go fishing, you have to have a bunch of different battle plans. You got to be willing to go out and investigate, and you can definitely find the fish, but you got to run and gun and look for them. I like it this time of year because when the salinities are right, especially in the back bay areas, we may find some redfish along the edges, and we just go fish some soft plastic and maybe some top water along the marsh edges. But I like it because the sunsets are so beautiful. I like to fish in the afternoons. Sunsets are beautiful. It's just a beautiful time to be on the water, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And, you're talking about temperature changes and all that. I mean, our water temperatures had gotten up to about 75, then they got down into the 60s. Yesterday, they were back up to 78, and a lot of guys get really frustrated this time of the year. For me, I'm 90% a trout guy. That's what I want to go for. But whenever I've got clients in from out of town, they just want to go catch fish. So, with these temperatures really yo-yoing back and forth, those fish may not be settled in the places where we can really find them and get onto them. So we have to kind of move around and do different things. And we've been really successful over the past few weeks fishing our nearshore reefs, fishing around the bridge, back in the edges of the marsh, like you said, and just catching a little bit of everything. Been having a lot of fun doing it. We've had some giant black drum. I've had some kids and girls, the last time we did this show, I had a picture for you, and we've had some more of those, and a lot of good eating fish too. There's some trout mixed in there. We're seeing a few flounder, a little bit of everything.
So when you say, Ronnie, that you're a trout guy, for people who don't pay attention to this, somebody from Tupelo that's thinking about coming down here and going fishing, and they hear about speckled trout and they think, man, I hear that's a good eating fish. It's fun to catch. It's a fish where you have to be really aware of salinity and water clarity and listening to the reports from other charter boat captains, but you have to kind of gather a lot of data points to try to decide where you're going to target, don't you?
Absolutely. They're probably more than any other fish, other than maybe triple tail, affected by natural conditions, water temp, salinity, water clarity, all that stuff really plays into your success. So, the first thing we start thinking about is time of the year. Where should these fish be at this time of the year? Then you narrow it down to what is the actual temperature of the water right now? Where's the clean water at? Do we have much fresh water? Have we had rain? And you just narrow all this stuff down to come up with a game plan of where to start out at.
Yeah, my son Jordan we call him the fish whisperer. I think I've mentioned it to you before. But I mean, he's got a photographic memory. He just remembers. He can remember trends on where we caught fish and how many fish we caught. We used to log a lot of this in a diary, but we don't even have to do that anymore. Jordan just says, "Okay, here's." I said, "Why aren't you going fish, Dad? We're not going to catch anything now. We have never caught on this date. Where we normally would like to catch fish, we don't catch fish." I said, "What makes you so positive?" Then he starts kind of rattling off the data points from his brain. That makes him a really, really good fisherman when he knows where to go and what to do. But when it comes to speckled trout, though, it is when you find them, and your point about the temperature of the water, this is actually in a transition time for people who don't pay attention to that. As water from that cool water starts to go away, you start to get the warm water. If it starts to come back cool again, you've got sheephead that are starting to sort of disperse. Black drum aren't as you're not gonna find them around structure as much as you normally do. Then you start, Spanish mackerel start to kind of heat up a little bit, and once that water gets to that certain temperatures and stays there, then you start to see things start to turn on pretty good, don't they?
Well, then you're going to have our brown shrimp start coming out, and once those come out, everything turns on. That's that magical time of the year where you start having those trips of a lifetime. You're catching a little bit of everything. The trout are bunched up. They're acting how they're supposed to. They're hungry. They're feeding. And that's whenever you really start getting pictures with big smiles at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this. I mean, most of the good charter boat captains do know this, that the key to catching fish is to know where the bait fish is going to be. In this case, you mentioned brown shrimp. But boy, that's the key. I mean, knowing those cycles and their relationship to salinity and maybe rain and all that, it's a big deal, isn't it?
Captain Joey Garriga says it best. He said, catching them's the easy part. Parking the boat in the right spot, that's the hard part.
I love that. Hey, listen, for people who don't know much about your guide service, tell them about Fisherman Guide Service.
We're based out of Pass Christian. We've got multiple boats that all work together. We've got our boats on lifts underneath shaggies. Once we come in from fishing, the restaurant's right there. You can take your catch upstairs. They'll cook it for you. Weekends, there's live music playing, crawfish bowling. We got a little bit of everything going on right there. It's a world-class venue if you're coming in town to charter fish.
What an awesome deal for people who missed our show about the Shaggy's Harbor Docks. What a wonderful evolution that was. But man, when you can mix making it easy for the family who didn't go fishing to meet back at the dock, and the guys coming in, or family coming in from fishing, they all meet back, get their fish clean, go upstairs and have them cooked, to be able to see these incredible sunsets and the scenes of the Pass Christian Harbor. There are very few scenes like that. I mean, you might actually have to go down to Key West to see something that cool.
Well, you're definitely going to have to get to Florida, I think, or at least Orange Beach, Alabama, to see something like that. We are very unique for what we have here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And I'm going to throw a shameless little plug in here, too, while we're at it, Ricky. We've just added something else right across the street. My wife, who I have been married to for 2 years today, it's our anniversary, just opened a boutique that the ladies can come over and shop at. Sweet Magnolia Boutique on Scenic Drive right here.
Well, that's cool. I mean, listen, that's part of the deal, man. Let's say the mom doesn't want to go fishing, but she wants to go shopping. Again, it's close to everything. As we said before, when you go down to somewhere like Venice, it's great, but you got a long drive down there, and once you get there, there's only one thing to do, and that is fish. So, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Captain Ronnie Daniels. We'll see you after this.
I said, one Mississippi, there's a magnolia tree. Two Mississippi, where a mockingbird sings out on his limb, whistling that sweet soul for him. I said, three Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on. I'll carry on.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We're talking coastal Mississippi fishing with my friend Ronnie Daniels, who is a guide for the Fisherman Guide Service, and he's got a terrific business. And one of the things, whether I'm talking with Ronnie or my friend Sonny Schindler, one of the things that you're going to find in the charter boat community here in coastal Mississippi, for the most part, there's always going to be an exception to the rule, but for the most part, they're in it because they want to show people a great experience, not necessarily because they want to take you to catch a big fish, even though catching a big fish oftentimes is part of that experience. But they want you as a person to have a good time. If that involves going to Cat Island and watching some unique birds that are migrating, or are going to see some porpoises or are just kind of taking it all in, and also, by the way, catching some fish in the process. That's what it's all about. Whatever makes you happy. So they're going to make the proper adjustments as they do that. But one of the things you mentioned, Ryan, before we started the show today, is you mentioned that one of your favorite all-time customers is going to come fishing with you this afternoon. Tell me, how does someone become your all-time favorite? I think it says a lot about you as a charter boat captain. You talk about your customers that way, but tell me about this person and what y'all going to be doing.
Well, I got to tell you, I've got a lot of favorites. I really do, but Tom probably tops that list. I've been doing this 12 years. I think it was 10 years ago, Tom and his wife, Kay, came fishing with me for the first time. They're from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Kay and I just had a bond from the first minute we met. She was like a second mom to me. And about 2 years later, Tom told me, he said, I can't get her to go anywhere else. The only thing she wants to do is come down there and fish with you. And they've gotten into a routine of coming twice a year. And about 5-6 years ago, we lost Kay.
Oh, no.
Tom continues to come. We have our spot out there where we go see Kay, and it's the sweetest thing. He brings roses and drops them in the water for her every year. That'll be 2 months from now, but that was the day we lost her. But he has become, we call him our adopted grandfather now. He goes to the hunting camp with us. He comes down. He stays at the house. We grilled some backstrap last night, and Tom's 70-something years old now, and I mean, he goes and does every day. He's either in the streams up there in Tennessee, but what he loves to do is come down here and get in the salt water and go catch fish. This afternoon, we're just going to go kind of poke around, see what we can find around Cat Island, check that out. Hopefully the winds will lay down. We'll be able to get over to the marsh. We typically fish 2 or 3 days at a time whenever he comes.
Well, so what's interesting though, for people who don't know this, you leave Pasquishan Harbor. Cat Island's not a long run at all, and if the weather's working for you, you can move over to the Louisiana Marsh. Cat Island's actually situated near the Louisiana coast, and man, I mean, it's like a whole nother world. I mean, you have actually a limitless number of opportunities there in that area, don't you?
You do. You know, I joke about this sometimes, but I had a guy ask me 5 or 6 years ago. He said, "How long did it take you to learn this marsh?" And I told him to leave his phone number. If it ever happened, I'd call him and let him know. We grew up with a camp at the mouth of the Pearl River, and every weekend was spent at LaFrance's fishing camp. We had a little place down there, and if it was calm enough, we were in the marsh. And that's where I started. That's where really my passion took hold for what we do today, and that sweet spot of being over there in the marsh, because every point could hold fish, and there are thousands and thousands of points and bays and bayous. You've got so much opportunity there.
Well, when I was publisher of the Times-Picayune and spending, obviously a lot of times in New Orleans as a result of that, we had award-winning series on the loss of habitat in Louisiana. So from one year to the next, over the past many, many years, we've seen, not only does the fishing change, but the habitat changes dramatically. I mean, if you look back, there are places that you and I used to fish in the Louisiana marsh that don't even exist anymore. It's just constantly changing.
And I tell people about that all the time. Just since Katrina, we've lost a lot of spots. But, I grew up wade fishing Flatboat Key. Everybody did. And that's pretty much gone now. There's still a little bit there. Pfeiffer Key, a lot of people don't even know about that. I was wade fishing that as a teenager. Martin and Mitchell Island. Martin's nothing but a little sliver now. We are definitely losing it. Seeing some of the effort that's been put forth to try to start protecting some of that. They rebuilt Breton Island. They're talking about doing some work at Chandelier. So it's all positive seeing that type of stuff happen, because we watch it go away every year.
I always my favorite thing on earth to do is to float the grass beds at Chandelier with 3 or 4 buddies, popping corks, it kind of reminds me of duck hunting, man. It's it's the social aspect of it. Having a little music on a hot summer day, and also catching a few speckled trout along the way. There's nothing better. Hey, listen, Ronnie, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend. Your enthusiasm for what you do is contagious. We really appreciate you, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me on, Ricky. I really enjoy whenever we get to do this.
You bet. This has been Captain Ronnie Daniels from Fisherman Guide Service. Listen, have a great week, and always, always stay safe when you're in the outdoors. God bless you, and we'll see you next Monday.